What is the femme fatale archetype? How can you achieve this look in an effortless way or in a way that is still integral to your own personal style? And is being a femme fatale naturally a dark aesthetic? My name is Melissa, and in today's video we are going to do a deep dive into the femme fatale archetype. A little quick run through of its history and origins. I'm not going to go super deep into that, so if you are interested in the full historical context of what is the femme fatale, who are femme fatales, and different films that consist of the femme fatale archetype, that's a quick research you can do yourself. We're going to be focusing on how the femme fatale is a dark aesthetic and how you can achieve it in your own wardrobe. Okay, so for starters, by definition, what is the femme fatale archetype? Let me just emphasize, these are not my definitions, but according to Merriam-Webster, the femme fatale is a seductive woman who lures men into dangerous or compromising situations, a woman who attracts men by an aura of charm and mystery. Other resources, the femme fatale is an attractive, dangerous woman. This definition was started in 1895. However, the idea of the femme fatale actually originates from the Odyssey, dating back to the story of Circe and the Sirens. And fun fact, there is actually a male equivalent of the femme fatale, which is the homme fatale, and it was coined in 1935. So as you can tell by the dictionary definitions of the femme fatale and its origins, it was never actually meant to be deemed as a compliment, but it was actually a means to kind of insult women and objectify them in a way, and they deemed these women dangerous. They deemed them to be luring men into compromising situations. And it was over time that the term and the archetype of the femme fatale was actually reclaimed, and it was something to take pride in. And I find that taking pride in this femme fatale look or embodying the femme fatale archetype is actually very empowering. It is taking claim of your sensuality and also just being unafraid of that and taking pride in that, and again reclaiming it as your own. I do want to say you can't talk about the femme fatale without talking about its racial stereotype equivalent, which was used oftentimes in old Hollywood, which was considered the dragon lady. Anna May Wong was often typecasted as this archetype called the dragon lady, and it was the racial stereotyped version towards Asian women, and it was often used for not like a love interest but more of like a villainess. And so there is a deep history when it comes to the femme fatale and what it was used for historically. And it is in the more recent years that the femme fatale is now deemed as a compliment, and it is something to reclaim as your own, and it is something to take pride in based off of how you personally see it. So the femme fatale is, as an archetype, is societally accepted as a compliment nowadays. So just a disclaimer, don't use dragon lady. That is still not an okay term to call women, especially Asian women. Is the femme fatale a dark aesthetic? If you're familiar with my other videos where I talk heavily about the Dark Muse system, which is an archetype system that I curated, I use the term femme fatale often and in a very complimentary way. And I have always talked about how the femme fatale as an archetype is naturally a dark aesthetic, specifically when it comes to the muses, vampire and siren. And sometimes I use it so often, and I feel like it's about time to do a deep dive and to actually talk about where does this term come from, what does it actually mean, and how can you actually achieve this femme fatale look if that is something that you are going for. So how is the femme fatale a dark aesthetic? So there is a lot of crossover between dark aesthetics as a large umbrella term and what it actually means to be a femme fatale. So by definition, the femme fatale is sensual, seductive, and the key word here is they're alluring. There is something dangerous, there is something carefree, and I think there's this air of mystery that you can't escape that has to be integral to the femme fatale look. Now, when it comes to dark aesthetics, it is a large umbrella term and many things can be considered dark. Oftentimes it's either dark hues or dark motifs. There's this fascination with the macabre, and there's always going to be something unsettling or countercultural. And that is a huge integral part of where they cross over. The femme fatale and the dark aesthetic is something that is rebellious. It challenges societal norms, especially from its origins. But the definition of what a femme fatale and a dark aesthetic is actually quite interchangeable. So in short, the femme fatale is a dark aesthetic. To embody this femme fatale look and aura and being is essentially being dark and mysterious. And there is something very naturally alluring about the femme fatale, and I think that crosses over with dark aesthetics as well. If you are unfamiliar with my Dark Muse system, it is an archetype system that I curated with the hopes of whenever I talk about styles, and specifically dark aesthetic styles, I don't have to rely on celebrities, influencers, or people, but focus more so on an entity or the aura and feeling. It's not meant to be a literal terminology. So for example, we have vampire, siren, haunted doll, witch, and fairy. On this spectrum though, I'm showing it in order of which dark aesthetic muse or which dark muse is the most femme fatale and the least naturally femme fatale. Now technically, the femme fatale look is going to be mostly attitude. It's mostly going to be this carefree feel and this reclaiming of a sensual energy that you take pride in. And that is vampire at its core. We can actually even argue that all femme fatale historical figures would fall under vampire or even siren. The difference here, though, is that vampiric qualities is going to be unapologetically this femme fatale sensual energy, and siren is going to be more alluring, more mysterious, and more subtle and minimal. Fairy can go either way. So fairy is defined as the most colorful, the most vibrant of the dark muses. And the key word here is when it comes to fairy styling, it's flirtatious, it's rebellious, it is playful. And that's where it can kind of teeter-totter where it's not the femme fatale, because the femme fatale, the biggest thing here is that they are mysterious and alluring, and fairy is a bit more in your face. So it can go either way. Witch can also be alluring, but it is not the core qualities that I consider in my witch Dark Muse system. I'm not talking about witches in general, but specifically in my archetype system. Witch is defined as the most natural, shapeless, and sometimes these silhouettes can read a little bit more wholesome. So if you play around with maybe sheer layers and you amp up that seductiveness more, witch can be a little bit more femme fatale. Haunted doll is going to be the least femme fatale. So when I curated the haunted doll muse, it was meant to be my new keyword so that I don't have to talk about Lolita styles or certain styles that are roughly naturally feminine. You are aiming to dress like a haunted doll. That goes back to why I made the Dark Muse system, is so that you don't have to use the terminology of styles that are pre-existing. Because, so for example, I did not want to constantly put the word goth or grunge to certain styles to put a word to something of what you want to achieve, because it could be inaccurate. It can also be maybe insulting to certain subcultures. So that's why I have vampire, siren, witch, haunted doll. These are entities that you are aiming to look like. And if you want to dress Lolita, there are certain rules and cultural aspects to think about when you're dressing Lolita. But if you want to just dress like a haunted doll, it is a bit more safer and a bit like, it's a bit more abstract in that way. But going back to the idea that haunted doll is the least femme fatale, it's because the key words that I curated for haunted doll is meant to be the most naive, the most doll-like, roughly and innocent in a way when it comes to a dark aesthetic, but there are ways to go about it. But please keep in mind, if you're going for a femme fatale with haunted doll attributes, essentially you are just mixing other Dark Muses with the haunted doll, and there's nothing wrong with that. So every time you are aiming for a style that is sensual or is alluring, does it always mean you are giving off femme fatale? I don't think so, and here is an example of what I feel like can best illustrate that. So Maria Zardoya of the Marias, very beautiful, and some of her styles oftentimes reads as Siren, with the exception of her recent Met Gala look, which was haunted doll, very obviously. But here I have two examples of Maria's looks that she often showcases. Both looks are stunning, both are alluring. But I feel like one style is more of a soft Siren and her other look is a femme fatale, and sometimes you want to put to words why that is. So the image on the left is more of a soft Siren. It is still sultry, but it's not exactly femme fatale. It is sultry in a way that it is off the shoulder. It is a satin fabrication and there's draping along the body. But what makes it a bit less femme fatale is the color. It reads more ethereal and dreamy with this soft blue, almost translucent look. And also, I believe it's the pose. I feel like when it comes to the femme fatale, the energy that you are intentionally giving off is a huge part of that. So this pose is more dreamy. You have the swept hair and it's like a hiding mermaid. Versus the image on the right, it is sultry in the sheer fabrication. Funny enough, it doesn't actually show as much skin as the image on the left, but it still reads more as a femme fatale. And I think it's because you have this high contrast look. You have this saturated, intense look of a black dress mixed in with the sheer fabrication, and also the pose, which gives off that femme fatale energy. It's open, it's unapologetic, it's carefree, and she's not hiding, yet it's still alluring. And I do want to note, high contrast colors doesn't always mean that's how you achieve the femme fatale look. It's more so the act of wearing dark, saturated colors and achieving this intense look. I think it's important to note, obviously, wear whatever you want. Whenever I do make my videos though, and I talk about my Dark Muses, this is more so to help those who want to achieve a look and they have an idea in their head and they do want to dress how they want, but they just need a little bit help with finding the inspiration and putting to words certain things so that it is easier to find further inspiration and to find very specific garments. So let's say you want to achieve the femme fatale look and you have a specific Dark Muse in mind. So you want to achieve a femme fatale aesthetic while still being loyal to your own personal style, and there's a Dark Muse that you feel the most akin to. So let's start off with Vampire. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Vampire is going to be the most obvious femme fatale. If anything, Vampire at its core is the femme fatale of the Dark Muses. So the core qualities of Vampire in my Dark Muse system specifically is they're going to be the most maximalist out of all of the Dark Muses. So this is where runway, unapologetic layering comes in. They are luxurious and they are naturally seductive. So this is at its core the traditional femme fatale. Now for a checklist of how to achieve the vampiric femme fatale look is red lips. I find that any variation of a bold, saturated red lip is going to feel vampiric and femme fatale. Dramatic makeup, sharp details, embellishments, and heavily adorning yourselves with riches. Silk satins, leathers, latex velvets are natural femme fatale fabrications. The color palette is going to be obviously bloody reds and saturated dark hues. Some garments to look into in details is corsetry, heart-shaped blood vials, statement pieces. And when it comes to fragrance, think smoky or vintage florals or anything that is musky and animalistic. And at the end of the day, to achieve this femme fatale look, it's this energy that you give off of an unapologetic confidence. And whenever I talk about the vampire muse in my other videos, I always emphasize the word, they are unapologetic. They are not hiding their sensuality. And that's why the vampire at its core is naturally going to be a femme fatale. My friend Naja is a great example of someone who embodies that energy almost all the time, and her color palette is oftentimes in the vampiric realm as well, so she is a great inspiration to look into. So as I was doing research and I was creating the mood boards for this video, I was thinking about, is witch going to be difficult to deem as a femme fatale? And I realized at the end of the day, being a femme fatale and embodying this archetype truly is all in the confidence, the attitude, and the energy you give off. Because when I was looking into what the core qualities of what witch is, which is natural, rugged, imperfect, and taking inspiration from things that are natural and of nature, some of the images that I was pulling together was of grunge, Angelina Jolie in the 90s, and some of these images and outfits were just literally jeans and a t-shirt, and it still gave off this modern day witch and still femme fatale, and it really is in the attitude. Witch at its core is natural, shapeless, and of course of the occult. So this is the seductive sorceress, really channeling your inner Circe. So the checklist here for the witch dark muse is brown or nude smoky eye looks that are imperfect, smudgy, messy, deep-hued lips, romantic soft silhouettes, or thinking of this old world seductress. This is going to be where grunge fits in, imperfect details, fur trims, aged leathers, rips, harnesses holding boxy silhouettes together could also be a great silhouette to look into, sheer robes. And the feeling you want to give off is kind of feral and this ritualistic energy. Occult talismans will really amp up that feeling that you're giving off a modern day witch. And for perfume and scent, I'm thinking green musk, poison botanicals, and fermented fruit fragrances like Purgatory Gardens from Petals and Poison. Okay, so as I go further into this video, I do want to emphasize, although I show celebrity examples or influencer examples, I want you to not focus on the person and more so focus on the cuts and silhouettes, the garments, and the aura and feeling that I am showcasing. And that's why I repeat certain people in the photos, but don't focus on who that person is, but focus more so on the actual silhouette that they are wearing, the fabrication, etc. Okay, so moving on to Siren, another dark muse from my system that naturally will give off the femme fatale. Unlike vampire, where the vampire is a bit more unapologetic and a bit more obvious with their seductiveness, Siren is sultry, but in a more subtle way, and like its namesake, is a bit more alluring, more literally luring you in. So the core qualities of Siren is minimal, sleek, and it's this quiet allure. The checklist here, this is where I believe old Hollywood looks will fit in, the femme fatale that you associate with film noir, long silhouettes that drape along the body, silk satins, and really keeping in mind that a little says a lot. Skin showing through lace or sheer layers, long lingerie slips, so you give off that siren-esque look, whispers of jewels. And also, with the old Hollywood in mind, I think this is also where sleek suiting comes in, like think Marlene Dietrich, Bonnie and Clyde, like these sharp details. They are Siren at the end of the day. And for scent and fragrance, I'm thinking like the smell of like you just got out of the bath, got out of the shower, and you're rolling in bed, or maybe salt notes, or anything that is reminiscent of the bedroom. Okay, so I was a little challenged with the haunted doll because I was wondering, how do I keep this integral to what I curated the haunted doll muse to be while still being the femme fatale? So like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the haunted doll is going to essentially be mixed in with some other dark muses, and I actually think there is something fun with that juxtaposition and that play, but how to still keep it haunted doll. At its core, you have to keep it doll-like. There is still going to be this softness and this nostalgic feel about the haunted doll. Keep in mind, out of all the dark muses, this is the dark muse that is going to feel more light, airy, and softer. So the checklist here, editorial doll makeup. So like I always talk about haunted doll being cute but creepy, for the femme fatale, I want you to keep the words in mind, uncanny but alluring. You can have 1920s makeup with 1940s silhouettes, white, beige, satin, so the fabrication here is still key, but you can still keep that integral part of haunted doll with the light colorations. Mixing in other muses, so a vampire haunted doll will definitely feel femme fatale. Even fairy and haunted doll can be femme fatale still. I'm thinking the Betty Boop effect, where there is this sensual nature to her, but also something very doll-like. I think this is also where jester, clown core, lace trims, ruffly details, and minimize the usual softness associated with haunted doll and juxtapose it with some sharp details, whether it's in the eyebrows or the actual silhouettes that you are choosing. Now for fragrance, I normally put powdery scents or soft florals or tea scents, like tea party scents. To make it a bit more femme fatale, I'm thinking spice tea, makeup powder, fragrance notes. When it comes to dressing in a femme fatale way and trying to go for clown core or jester details that fall somewhere in between haunted doll and fairy, I definitely recommend looking into the shop Neverwear by Cemetery. She is a very talented designer, and I think Cemetery in herself gives off naturally a vampire dark muse look mixed in with fairy due to the cheeky details, the sassy details, as she's told me. And a lot of her clothing that she designs has the diamond jester motifs, so that is a great place to look to for inspiration and also where to shop in terms of if that's what you want to achieve. Haunted doll as a femme fatale is like a black and white cartoon, and fairy is the more vibrant technicolor sister of the haunted doll. At its core, the fairy dark muse is a play with pattern and color, and fairy was my answer of how to achieve a dark aesthetic while not sacrificing vibrant colors or patterns and experimental details. So like its namesake, fairy is also going to be very cheeky, maybe humorous and devious when playing around with the ensembles. And that actually does come as an advantage if you are trying to achieve the femme fatale, because you are reclaiming that sensual energy. But the difference here, think of the fairy as the vampire's younger sister that wears shorter silhouettes, or just a different counterpart to the vampire in a more colorful and playful way. The fairy is flirtatious, cheeky. Pattern mixing will be key here, much like Cryptic Moth, who I have at the bottom here, who is kind of this mix of haunted doll and fairy. Cabaret, burlesque, circus boudoir could also be a great inspiration. Think Liza Minnelli in Cabaret, where it's a little femme fatale in energy and attitude, but there's still this colorfulness and playfulness. I think pattern tights could also be a great way to achieve this femme fatale look, because you're playing around with that sheerness. You're toning down the playfulness that is normally in the fairy at its core. I think the colors of Jawbreaker is perfect, especially what is shown on Rose McGowan. I also think silhouettes that could be Siren, but with added pattern and color, just like what I have in the image from Flowers of War. When it comes to fragrance, I'm thinking bright fruit cocktail type, so not too different from what I normally recommend for fairy. In conclusion, if you can get anything out of my video, I do want to say that no matter what you wear, if you want to embody what it means to give off the femme fatale, which is a very attractive energy. There's a reason why so many people aim for this archetype or to embody it. But in my personal opinion, I do believe it is 70% attitude and the rest of it being your hair, clothes, and makeup. Those are definitely tools and an armor that you can put on that gives off that energy. But if you embody the confidence and the energy first, everything else will follow. So the general checklist that I would say for achieving the femme fatale look, whenever you are looking for garments or inspiration or you're secondhand shopping online, some keywords that could help is, of course, the obvious seductive, sultry, sensual. Those are very obvious terms that are integral to the femme fatale. Alluring, an air of mystery. I think also something unsettling, mysterious, or dangerous is going to be key. And of course, being unapologetically confident. Some other research terms to look up is, of course, film noir. That is where the traditional femme fatale tends to be. Burlesque, cabaret, pulp art, vintage lingerie, and Bond girls, of course. I do want to note, I did not include a lot of pulp art references because I realized when it comes to achieving the femme fatale look, it's this air of allure and confidence, and majority of the gothic novel pulp art I was originally going to include, they're running away from danger, and I feel like although that is still a dark aesthetic, it's a gothic look, it's not always a femme fatale. There's a lot of crossover. So I'm going to make a different video that covers how to achieve the look of the beautiful allure that is those characters that are on pulp art, on on vintage gothic novels. End of the day, achieving the femme fatale look is wearing what makes you the most confident. Whatever makes you feel your best self. If it is a suit, if it is vintage lingerie with a leather jacket, or if it is truly a ripped up t-shirt with jeans. At the end of the day, achieving the femme fatale can be achieved in many different ways. Absolutely no possible way that I could have covered every single inspiration or film that involves this archetype, but I hope this video can spark some inspiration, and at the end of the day, I just hope you've had fun watching it. And if you watch this whole thing, thank you so much. Also, big shout out to my Patreon members. For those of you who don't know, Patreon members get a look at my script or my mood boards that you see in my videos as a compiled little PDF that you can access and you can look at and essentially own. But yeah, that's available to Patreon members. And I hope you have a great week. And until next time, bye.